Today, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to start pulling some fat drops at the Maggot King. Here's the best part, the budget-friendly mid-game setup in this guide is such low risk, dying here is going to cost you basically nothing. This boss was marketed by Jagex as somewhere between Fasani's Nightmare and the Inferno. In reality, it's a lot closer in difficulty to the Desert Treasure 2 bosses. My personal opinion is that it's even easier than some of them, but maybe I just suck at Vardovis. I've seen so many people moaning about how crappy the drops are at this boss, and yeah, the common loot is rough. But if you're getting uniques on rate, this place is still an absolutely crazy moneymaker, and it's likely to stay that way. It drops the Elder Venator Tooth, which crafts onto a Necklace of Anguish to make the best in slot range necklace, and this kind of stuff holds value. If you've done the content required to unlock this fight, you already have the skills you need to grind this boss. You just need to learn how. We'll minimize the sweaty bullshit, but there are some useful techniques here that you can learn to massively speed up your kills. We'll include the stuff that's going to make a huge difference and cut the fluff. So let's get into it. Just the essentials you need to start smashing out the Maggot King. The only reason you might consider this boss endgame is its requirements. You need to complete Blood Moon Rises to get access to Vampyrium. This boss requires melee, then you can pick from either magic or ranged, depending on your stats and available gear. This guide's going to focus on ranged and melee. Magic needs more switches to be viable, which is tough for learners. But if you'd like to see a magic guide focused on the best in slot gear for optimal kills, let me know in the comments. At a minimum, I'd recommend 85 in ranged, attack, strength and HP. 74 prayer and 70 defense is really useful for rigor, but if you've not got rigor, Deadeye from Royal Titans at 62 prayer is going to be okay. 64 agility is really helpful for some shortcuts to the boss, and 70 construction is useful to build a bank chest in Sangvesti. These are really convenient, but don't stress if you ain't got them. Let's quickly cover the recommended gear setup. Not gonna bullshit ya, you can send this boss with any half decent gear as long as you've got 2 combat styles. But this setup in particular is super low budget, low risk and beginner friendly due to the small amount of switches. A simple dragon crossbow is more than enough for your ranged weapon. Ruby bolts will go hard early in the fight whilst his HP is still high. Slapping the Maggot King for big 100s can massively speed up a kill. Pair this with whatever ranged offhand you have, and Aquanite Hopper is genuinely underrated. But honestly, if we're keeping it budget, anything will do, a Book of Lore will suffice. You've got 2 basically free options for the budget melee weapon. Either a barrel chest anchor or a colossal blade can absolutely slap. An abyssal bludgeon is a little better if you have the cash to burn, but it's not necessary. Whatever you use, make sure it's set to crush to take advantage of the boss's weakness. There is some juicy tech you can use with another ranged switch. Bring any bow type weapon with charges. The cheapest option that's going to keep your death fees low is a crystal bow. Full Elite Void is going to be our armor of choice. You'll want the ranged and melee helmets. This is going to be your second switch. And your third and final switch is the cape slot. Bring your best Other's device or your quiver if you're an absolute gamer. And either a fire, infernal or mythical cape. They all do pretty well here. The rest of the gear we're not going to need to switch out. An Amulet of Fury and Arania boots are great pieces of hybrid gear for all 3 styles, and an imbued Berserker ring will be fine for your ring slot. In the rest of your inventory, bring a ranging potion and a super combat potion, as well as 4 Sanfew serums. Fill the rest of your inventory up with anglers. Getting to the boss is simple. A Draken's Medallion to Castle Draken, use the portal into Vampyrium and run east. The lair entrance is in the forest east of Sangvesti near the ruined village. But before you send your first kill, there's a one-time unlock that you absolutely want. The Aranai Scout. You'll find him southeast of Sangvesti getting jumped by 3 bug monsters. Kill him, have a little chat, and from then on he'll wait around south of the bank chest and shuttle you straight to the east side of Sangvesti. 2 minutes of setup saves you the run on every single trip. Do it now before you waste your time and supplies running through an area with aggressive NPCs. This is also where those convenience unlocks from earlier come in. The level 62 agility shortcut cuts the run down even further, and if you've got 70 construction, the bank chest insane vesty means you can resupply without ever leaving Vampyrium. If not, no stress, teleport out to Tob with the medallion, restock at the Tob bank, and you're back at the boss in about a minute. With all that covered, we're ready to go into the actual mechanics you need to learn how to deal with. But first, if this is helping you get your first KC, smash that like button and subscribe if you want more of these no bullshit boss guides. Only 13% of you guys are subscribed. If you found this useful, chances are you'll like my other guides too. The Maggot King has a few phases that you need to be aware of, transitioning gradually as you get his HP down. In the first phase, he'll hit you repeatedly with either a ranged or magic attack. He always opens with ranged, so always enter the arena initially with protect from missiles up. During this phase, you need to hit the boss with ranged and use the correct defensive prayer. The green projectile is a ranged attack, it will poison you. The yellow projectile is a magic attack, it will cause disease, reducing your stats. The Sandfuse serum can both cure and restore these, so no issue here if you do make a mistake. As long as you've got the right prayer up, you should not take too much damage. Once the projectile hits you, it explodes and spreads somewhere in a 3x3 grid around your player, leaving pools that will damage you if you stand on them. You can look for the shadows to see where these are about to land, but a foolproof method is just to step 2 tiles away after every attack. You can run over the pools using tile skipping if you need to. I find it best to work from right to left, keeping to the back of the arena to keep the poison and disease pools packed as tightly as possible. You want to keep the front of the arena clear for reasons you'll see later. After a few ranged or magic attacks, he'll do a venator screech. You can identify this by a pause in regular attacks and a white aura surrounding the boss. You should have dealt with this during the Blood Moon Rises, but here's a refresher. Before he screeches, turn off your protection prayer. Then, when he stops, turn on the other prayer. If you've been tanking ranged hits, switch to magic, or vice versa. This hits hard if you forget to turn your prayer off. If anything is going to kill you during the first phase of the fight, it's this. Whilst the screech is occurring, he'll scatter some debris around the arena. This clears up some of the venom and disease pools, but it also damages you a bit if it lands on you. They'll land randomly and explode in a 3x3 just like the other attacks. Once again, you can look at the shadows and move out of the way, but these don't hit too hard, so don't panic and prioritize what actually matters, getting the right prayer. As you reduce his HP further, he'll start to launch grubs into the arena during the screech. The best way to deal with this is switch to your bow and hit it as it's flying through the air. You're guaranteed to one-hit these with a bow-type weapon if you hit them before they land. That's why the crystal bow goes so hard here. You don't need to bring an ammo switch. If these do land, they'll start to run back and forth across the arena, damaging you and healing the boss as they go. They aren't a major problem, but if they land in the first row, I'd try and get them down. Like I said earlier, we want to keep this free of any hazards. Let's have a quick refresher on exactly how the first phase will play out. Pray ranged and step out of the way of the green acid explosions until the Maggot King screeches. Right before he starts screeching, turn off protection from missiles, shoot the grub flying through the air if there is one, and try to dodge the shit being launched at you. Get protection from magic on. This loops round at switching between ranged and magic attacks in an alternating pattern. Get all of this down and you know 80% of the fight, even if you've only just started chipping down the boss's HP bar. Once the boss gets to around 65% HP, he'll begin adding in a melee phase between each ranged and magic phase. You'll know the phase is coming because he'll step closer to the walkable area of the arena. Switch to that melee gear and pot up if you aren't already boosted. There's only one mechanic here. If you do it right, you can do insane DPS. If you don't, you're getting dropped pretty damn quickly. The actual maggoty part with the Maggot King will fly out of the rest of the body and slam on the ground. I tried to think of a bunch of jokes about the boss looking like a flaccid penis, but that was about as funny as I could make it. Haha, very funny. You can identify the damage area of the slam by, yes, you guessed it, more shadows on the ground. Don't stand in the shit on the floor. Step out of the way of the shadows and hit the boss. That's the bare minimum to survive. But here's the trick that you'll want to learn, the melee punish. Dodge the slam by stepping one tile out of the way, then hit the boss as soon as your character has finished moving. Time this right and your attack timer resets, and that hit lands with a massively boosted accuracy and damage. This is why a slow weapon is so useful here. Slower weapons hit hard, and when you're negating the attack cooldown, you're getting in a crazy amount of big, heavy hits. The full cycle works like this. Dodge the Maggot King's melee attack, click the boss to attack, step back to one of the central 3 tiles, click the boss again, and loop this round. It can be hard to get on cycle for this. The best thing to do is wait for the audio cue of the Maggot King ejecting. Then click to one of the outside tiles. Tagging the Maggot King with the NPC highlighter plugin can be really helpful for identifying the safe and unsafe tiles before you need them. Repeat this until he steps back, and when he does, throw up the prayer for whichever style he wasn't using before the melee phase and get your ranged gear back on. You'll be doing exactly the same stuff you were doing during the initial phase. The full loop will be melee, then one style, either range or mage, then melee again, and back into the other style. This goes round and round until you get the boss to 19% health. This is going to be pure melee. There are 2 differences between this phase and the last one. He won't ever step back and range or mage you. He will, though, still stop to screech. You can turn your prayer off completely at this point, so it's not going to do much. He will start to launch 4 grubs at you instead of 1. You can try and one-tick these and get them all if you think you're some kind of Giga Chad gamer, but you're watching this guide, so something tells me you might not be. I'd personally recommend just letting them land and focusing on damaging the boss. You can run over them to avoid any damage. They don't hit hard, they're just an inconvenience. Once you get the melee punish down, you should be able to absolutely melt this boss down to 0 HP very, very quickly. That should be everything you need to know, but here's the fight in one paragraph. Bring Elite Void with ranged and melee switches and some kind of charged bow. Phase 1 is dealing with the yellow and green projectiles, using the right prayer and moving 2 tiles at a time. Remember to switch off prayer for the screech transition, kill the grubs in the air and avoid the shit on the floor. Phase 2 introduces melee, use the punish mechanic to make this super fast. Move out the way, hit the boss, move back, hit the boss, repeat. Phase 3 removes the ranged and magic attacks and locks in on melee. Perfect that melee punish and try not to stand on the massive amount of grubs that spawn. None of these mechanics are individually that hard. The difficulty here is not panicking and prioritizing something less important, like the grubs and venom piles, over something that's going to take you out, like getting spanked by the melee attack. If you want more of this kind of content, I'm always testing new gear setups and pushing my PVM limits on Twitch, as well as taking learner raids. I've also linked my Discord server in the video description if you need a hand with any content or want to find some friends to start raiding with. Big shout out to my YouTube members and Twitch subs. You guys help keep this channel running, and I appreciate the support. Thanks for sticking around. I'll see you next time.